Whoa, sorry. Got the mic on hold. Hey, welcome to the lunchtime Devo with Bo O today. It's super stoked to be in boop, 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 2 Samuel chapter 10. And sorry about hitting that mute button, man. That's the second time I hit that mute button and kind of went on silent mode there for a little bit. But this is the lunchtime devotion on Friday, December 16th, 2022. You could always check out the archives at my personal YouTube page at Bo Willette if you want to get through the Bible in a pretty quick way. You can do it just by listening to some of these devotions where we actually pull out of the chapters just some of the principles that we find in the Word. Now, these are my devotional times. These are times where I get in the Word or want to get in the Word, and then I just air them for you, And so you can certainly join me in going through the Bible. I like to do my devotions by going through the Bible simply because it's nice. I get the flow of what God's doing throughout history, and it certainly is amazing. And there's a lot to think about when you see the historical kind of overview of God's working in the lives of people. And let's face it, just the idea of a God, a creator, working in the life of his creation, that alone's pretty radical. Of an idea and something cool, right? Something really neat to think about. Cool in the sense of very mind-blowing in a lot of ways. So we're in 2 Samuel chapter 10 today. So I'm just going to read it and we'll go over it together. So it says, sometime after this, King Nahash of the Ammonites died. Okay, so we get a little input that, hey, one of the Ammonites kings died. This is going to be the story of all of our lives, by the way. After some time, Bo Willette of Tucson died. And put your name in there too, right? At some point, all of us are going to be a guest of honor at a memorial time. And so it's good today just to think through that, think about that, take a second and just go, hey, why am I afraid to think about death? Why am I afraid to think about death? And when I think about death, what comes into my mind? It's kind of interesting, but you know what I think about when I think about death? Life. That's immediately what comes into my brain. And then there's passages in the Bible that come into my brain. This is why Jesus came into the world, right? To overcome death, to defeat it, if you will, and to change its very nature. So that death had one time a nature of separation. Now death no longer has that nature. It now has a different nature, an added nature to it, and that is also life. And there's some amazing doctrines that kind of we can discuss at that point, and you can get into just by reading the scriptures. But they're beautiful, absolutely redeeming, and life-changing. So that when you think about death, you think about birth. Yeah, you don't think about extinction anymore. Where a lot of people, when they think about death, they think about extinction. That's it. That's all. That's all she wrote. Done deal, right? That kind of thing. Instead of, oh no, it's not the end, it's the beginning. So sometime after this, King Nahash of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun became king. David said, I am going to show loyalty to Hanun just as his father. Nahash was always loyal to me, so David sent ambassadors to express sympathy to Hanun about his father's death. Wow, that's cool. Now, if you just type in the history of the Ammonites, you'll kind of get an idea of what family line they are of, and kind of in a sense, the relationship between David and his family those from Judah and these people that are called the Ammonites. You can do that. It's kind of cool, right? But notice David's heart, man. Hey, can I show this person some kindness? It's kind of similar to the last chapter where King David was in the same kind of mode where he was showing mercy and blessings to one of the sons of Saul, the previous king's son. So the grandson of Saul, King Saul, this guy Mephibosheth. And so David's on this beautiful, if you will, tear of just being kind. And that's pretty awesome. Just think if most of us were on the human planet, if we just were a little more kind to one another. What would that be like? But money gets in the way. Economic gain, right? So we build up empire complexes all over the world, right? Imperial, big businesses, to dominate. And, the thing is if you got to keep growing, if that's the goal economically is to keep growing in wealth, then you're going to have to beat up on someone. You're going to have to take over. You're going to have to monopolize. That's how it works. I mean, we all have played the game of Monopoly, right? It's not rocket science, right? What is the purpose? It's to conquer. It's to take over, right? If you can get someone to sell all their property, pressure them because they're going to be bankrupt, right? Then you can get their stuff. Someone's going to win the game. And that's how it works, right? Money, it's about that. And so what happens? Our hearts get all jacked. We have no more kindness in us. We might be kind on an individual basis, but when it comes to financial, the cards are all out on the table, man. We really show what we're really like. Ooh. And that's the rough part. It's when you look at the way we are in the world, it shows utter depravity. It shows that there's no way a righteous being can be around us, could dwell with us, without incredible judgment on us. Yeah, if there is a God, the way he would prove that he really exists is by his absence from being with us. That's right. So you think about that one a little bit, right? And so when David's ambassadors arrived in the land of Ammon, the Ammonites commander said to Hanun, their master, "Do you really think these men are coming here to honor your father? No, David has sent them to spy out the city so they can come in and conquer it." So Hanun seized David's ambassadors and shaved off each man's beard, cut off their robes at their buttocks, and sent them back to David in shame. Man, have you ever listened to bad advice? Have you ever listened to someone and just been like, oh man, dude, that was not good. I should not have done that. I shouldn't have listened to them. There's some consequences there. Boy, haven't we all? And sometimes sometimes this is it. You're at a church, right? And it's all people your age. You're just at a big youth group or big college group. You call it a church, and yeah, it's an assembly, but it's an assembly of college students or something, right? And you like going to that church. Why? Because there's a bunch of people your age, right? All you get is input from the people your age. And it can work when you're older too. You're in a church that's all your age, right? Older age. But you're just, oh man, this is so great. Yeah, I'm just listening to people my age. The pastor's my age. Everybody's my age. Oh man, not good, right? We need a collective of people to help us so that when someone younger says something, one of the older people, the older saints, one of the people who's 70 years old can go, nah, you got to think through that a little bit more. And I know that younger people struggle with that. But it's good for you, man. You got to be able to listen and learn how to surrender and learn how to come underneath and learn how to do what 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 1 and 2 says, right? Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but treat him as a father. Older women as mothers, right? Younger women as sisters with all purity. Younger men as brothers, that kind of thing. You got to have a collective, right? The diversity, right? Diversity. That's true diversity. That's true university. Unity in diversity going on. Here, what does Hanun do? Hanun says, hey, you know what? David wants to come and bless me. Instead of saying right on, and maybe listening to someone else, what does he do? Instead, he listens to other people, man. It's a drag. He listens to people that are saying something and he buys into it. So when David heard of what had happened, he sent messengers to tell the men, stay at Jericho until your beards grow out. And that's Have you ever been just humiliated? Sometimes we do get humiliated and we can just go, all we can do is just, that's it, It's a bummer when that happens, right? They shave off half of these men's beards, which was a big thing of honor, right? Kind of maturity, have a beard, and then cut off their robes, right? Showing their rears, giving them chaps, and so that was definitely embarrassing. And no fun to be embarrassed. And what do we do when we're embarrassed? What do we do when someone shames us? There's probably nothing we can do or nothing we even should do or ought to do. We probably just need to walk away, And if anybody's going to defend us, maybe it just needs to be God, and that's it. So David heard what happened, and he sent messengers to the men saying, stay at Jericho until your beards grow out, and then come back, for they felt deep shame because of their appearance, right? So a couple months have to go by. Then the people of Ammon realized how seriously they had angered David. David's not a dude you want to anger. That is for sure. And so they sent and hired 200,000 Aramean foot soldiers, right, from the lands of Beth Rehob and Zobah, 1,000 from the king of Maacah, and 12,000 from the land of Tob. So what do? They rent a warrior. See, David's a warrior. David is a guy who's a seasoned. He is definitely a OG warrior. This guy is battle tough, man. And this guy knows how to wreck shop. Sometimes when I watch some of these interesting barbarian series on Netflix or some other thing, and they come out, some of them kind of remind me of maybe what King David was like. You got that central person in the show who just really knows how to fight and go to war. And he's always victorious. He himself is pretty much always a winner, And that's kind of how David seems to be. Just a guy who knows what to do in military battles. And so, hey, they go rent a cop, so to speak. That's what the people of Ammon do. And when David heard about this, he sent Joab and all his warriors to fight them. So he says, okay, I'm going to tell my commander to go fight. So the Ammonite troops come out and drew up their battle lines at the entrance of the city gate, while the Arameans from Zobah and Rehob and the men of Tob and Maacah positioned themselves to fight in the open fields. Now, the sad part is this never had to happen. This really never had to happen. But guess what? Bad advice brought about a lot of bad decision making that led to war. How much of that is like our families? How much of bad decision making over time has led to bad decisions, right? More bad decisions. You say something, you mistrust, you don't trust someone, and you kind of go a different way. You make a bad decision, it leads to another bad decision, and they just compile to now where there's war going on in your family. Someone's got to come to grips and say, hey, I'm sorry. Someone has got to say, hey, I shouldn't have assumed. I shouldn't have listened to this person. How many times our assumptions get us messed up, right? Don't assume. Why are we assuming? Oh, my wife wants to do this. Oh, my husband wants to do this. Well, how do you know? Did you ask him? Or are you assuming that's what's the case? So when Joab saw that he would have to fight on both the front and the rear, he chose some of Israelite elite troops and placed them under his personal command to fight the Arameans in the field. He left the rest of the army under the command of his brother Abishai, who was to attack the Ammonites. If the Arameans are too strong for me, then come over and help me, Joab told his brother. And if the Ammonites are too strong for you, I will come and help you. Be courageous. Let us fight bravely for our people, for the cities of our God. May the Lord's will be done. Wow, what a way to go to war. Let's be courageous. Let's fight, right, bravely for our people and the cities, for our God. We're doing it for our people. These people have mounted a giant army against us. So, brother, let's do what we can do. Let's go at it. Straight up out of one of those series again that's on these networks. And then Joab and his troops attacked the Arameans, and they began to run away. And when the Ammonites saw that the Arameans running, they ran from Abishai and retreated into the city. After the battle was over, Joab returned to Jerusalem. The Arameans now realized that they were no match for Israel. So when they regrouped, they were joined by additional Aramean troops summoned by Hadadezer from the other side of the Euphrates River. Really sad that Hadadezer comes on here and does this as well. Wasn't he at one point okay with David? But here everybody's now back at war. Again, assumptions, power structures, misinformation, going off things. Oh man, has government acted out of misinformation before? Maybe I shouldn't go there, right? Maybe it's all one big misinformation, right? Yeah, that's right. What a concept, what an idea, but it's been going on forever, right? And then war happens. So what happens is these troops arrived from Helam under the command of Shobach, the commander of Hadadezer's forces. And David when he heard what was happening, he mobilized all Israel. It's good to use your intellect. It's good to use your mind. It's good to think through things. It's good when things come your way, challenges come my way, that, I go to God, I think through it, and understand that this challenge could be met with some wisdom. And David here is thinking about how to do this, how to mobilize Israel. He crossed the Jordan River and led the army to Helam. The Arameans positioned themselves in battles formation and fought against David. But again, the Arameans fled from the Israelites. This time, David's forces killed 700 charioteers and 4,000 foot soldiers, including Shobach, the commander of their army. Then when all the kings allied with Hadadezer saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they surrendered to Israel and became their subjects. After that, the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites. So, we see in chapter 10 that David continues to defeat people. Here it's the Ammonites and the Arameans. And these wars just continue to happen. And it's so sad that David said, hey, at the beginning of this chapter, I'm going to show loyalty to Hanun, just as his father Nahash has always shown loyalty to me. And then that was the heart at the beginning, is to show loyalty and friendship. And then it just crash landed. Why? Because, the Ammonite commanders said to Hanun, do you really think these men are coming here to honor your father? No, David's come to spy the land. So Hanun goes and hears that advice, which wasn't true, and he starts a war. And this war is just going to continue. Different things are going to happen. Wars are going to go on and on and on. God, help me to be a peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers? Am I a peacemaker? How much am I a part of the problem? And man, what can I do to be a better person? This is why we love Jesus so much, because Jesus is the greatest example of a human being who can be peaceful and act kindly and do the right things and be safe. He is the greatest example. Meaning, if you had a earth filled with Jesuses, it should be a peaceful planet. But if you don't, right? If all of us are not like Jesus, and we're like other people, we're emulating other people, then what do we have? What do we got? Right? What do we have? What do we got? A mess, right? Yeah. All of us are a part of it. Pretty sad. We need salvation, no doubt. So chapter 10, where do wars come from? They come from within. That's right. That's what the book of James tells us. Where do wars come from? They start in here, right? Where do human wars come from? Do they not come from inside someone's mind, inside someone's heart? Before any button's pushed, any gun is shot, before a tank gets turned on, someone's thinking about it. Heavy, heavy for sure. God, help us to be peacemakers. Help us to show kindness. And, man, have some mercy on us for sure. In Christ, there's a lot of mercy. We can be thankful for that today. So you guys take care, okay? Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.